So welcome everybody to our session on learning more about the accreditation process with Mark Bixter. For those of you that don't know Mark is a life and leadership coach and also one of our MOE lead trainers, and it is here and we're delighted for him to take you through the process. So I'll hand you straight over to Mark.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see you all. Some faces I recognise, some names I don't know, and grateful for you giving up your Wednesday afternoon to come and have this conversation. And when I say conversation, I mean a conversation. When I kind of initially set this up with Jane, I had the intention that we'd have a sort of Q&A, a sort of round table. We'd sort of think about stuff that may come up around accreditation. And then the other day, Jane said, we've got 59 people signed up. And I was like, oh, okay. That sounds slightly more formal. So I quickly cobbled some slides together, which I will share to make it feel like it has slightly more structure than I was initially anticipating. And often on these calls, if we get like 60 people sign up, we get about half come, and we're getting close to that now. We're nearly at 27 people. So but my hope very much is that this is a dialogue and a conversation. It's not going to be about me sitting here spouting to you all. And so in the spirit of that and in the spirit of connection, I will ask that you put your cameras on so that we can see each other and connect. So please do that. And I am just going to where's everybody gone? I'm just going to share some slides and I will talk a little bit before we move into a more formal. Can everyone see that slide? Great, perfect. Can everyone see the slide has changed? Because recently I've done a Zoom and I put it on and I was changing the slides and jabbering on and they hadn't moved on. So yeah, the ask is to keep your cameras on because this is about us connecting and being in dialogue with each other. Raise your Zoom hand if you've got a question at any point. Please do that. Please, questions are welcome. This is a conversation. And please stay muted, but no, you can ask a question at any time. I'm not asking you to be muted to silence you, just so we don't get background noises as people's doorbells ring and email notifications go bong and stuff like that. And I've said it a couple of times already, but this is not a webinar or a presentation. In spite of me having created some slides last minute, I really expect this to be a conversation and discussion. And as Jane said, we'll be recording the session. And I guess on that recording bit, very pleased that we are recording this. If anyone asks a question or anything and at the end you feel uncomfortable with it or you don't want it included, then let us know and we'll do our best to get rid of that section, but only if you're really concerned about something. And a few things to keep in mind on this call. This is going to focus on accreditation with Association for Coaching. That is the natural path from the MOE course into an accreditation. The MOE course is aligned with Association for Coaching, but there are a number of accreditation bodies who you may wish to investigate and look into, namely ICF is the biggest one, the International Coaching Federation. There's also the EMCC, which is the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, and more recently UCA, which is the Universal Coaching Alliance. This is sounding like that Monty Python sketch in Life of Brian, where the People's Front of Judea and all these acronyms. But there are a number of accreditation bodies looking to drive up standards and ethics within coaching, and they all have a slightly different lens. So in the conversation we have today, a lot of the generalities might be relevant to all of them, but the specifics about the process will be AC based. And this isn't, I'm not here to sell accreditation and do a sales pitch. My intention is for you to explore if it's right for you, not persuade you to do it. And you might get to the end of this call and think, absolutely not, can't be bothered with that. You may think, oh, this is interesting, I'll come back to it. another time. It seems not right for me at the moment, or you may be totally on board and want to get stuck in. And wherever you are on that spectrum, or anything I haven't named is welcome. And the acknowledgement that I'm not here representing the AC, so everything I share is my perspective and my own bias and my own thoughts. So take what I say with a pinch of salt, and if it resonates, embrace it, and if it doesn't, then don't. And then one more slide just to say a little bit about me and my journey with this. So I've been coaching for 8 years. As James said, I'm one of the lead trainers and assessors for MOE. Previously worked for MOE as a growth and impact director. I've been through the accreditation process twice now at 2 different levels, and we'll speak about the different levels as we go on. I hope in about a year or 2 I'll be going through it for the final time when I get to Master Executive Coach, which is the top tier you can go for. And once you've got that, you do need to maintain the accreditation, but you don't need to do the whole thing. So hopefully I've only got to go through it one more time. I've currently got over 2,300 hours of coaching experience, and my work has been in prisons, in corporate settings, in the arts, and within local authorities. So hopefully that gives you a little flavour of who I am. So I'm going to just stop that share now, and it'd be nice just to get a sense of where people currently are with this. And again, if you can put your cameras on, please do, so we can see each other and connect. But just to get a sense of who has done a bit of research into accreditation, you've got a bit of a sense of what it takes, of what it is. Just raise your hand if you're in that place. And okay, so that's about probably half people. And who is sort of knows very little and have just turned up. What is accreditation? What does it mean? Okay, a few of those. So there's a bit of a mix in terms of like, what on earth are we even talking about? And oh yeah, I've started to think about this. Okay, that's really helpful. So with both, I guess with both sides of that, you're here with a curiosity around it. And I think for me, one of the first questions to ask in relation to accreditation is why go through it? Why engage in this? And it'd be nice just to hear from a few people of your current thinking of turning up, of why you're currently thinking about it. Anyone happy to kind of share? Yeah, Jason. And then
yes, hello, thank you. Hello, everybody. Well, at the moment, I've been working with young people in a educational capacity, and obviously coaching has been very much a part of that, in terms of actively listening and figuring out what the individual student needs in a way to approach working with them to get them to the next goal, whatever that step may be. And I particularly work with neurodivergent young people. So it's even more important that I tailor make all of the work. Sorry if I've gone on too long, but I'm looking possibly to transition to using those skills in a coaching capacity in other than educational settings.
And accreditation sits with that. How are you seeing accreditation being relevant to that?
I think that while I feel as though I have a lot of experience as a coach, some defined learning that I would gain through the accreditation, and then also the credibility that comes with that, would help me to transition to using those skills in other fields.
Great, thank you. So yeah, some credibility and learning. And I'm going to stop distracting you now because I'm feeling very anxious that you're driving down the road. So I'll let you concentrate on that. And Gemma.
Hello, Mark. Nice to see you again.
You too.
So I'm a MO graduate. I completed November last year, the introduction to coaching, and I've been a student member of the Association for Coaching. So I've kind of gone along that journey over the last year, and I've just started a postgraduate diploma at University of Warwick in coaching. So I've just started my first module, which is both exciting and terrifying in equal measure, I would say. And as part of that, the ICF frameworks underpin the qualification, and I'm kind of deciding which body to kind of then belong to. So the obvious one would be Association for Coaching because I'm part of it already. But there's also, as you mentioned, lots of other bodies that I could consider as well. So I thought this was a really good, timely opportunity to find out about your experience, Mark, and other people's experiences, so I can decide what route might be best for me.
Great, thank you. And you can do all the bodies if you want to, if you've got the
time,
the will and the and the time. And
I don't think I've got either will or time. So one would be fine.
But I guess just to say, you don't have
that's good to know, because I didn't realise that, so that is good to know, absolutely. And I can see the merits of all of them, and I've not explored the other bodies, the European one and the other one has escaped me now yet, because I felt like I want to kind of look at the one that I'm currently part of, because the obvious choice is to stay where I am because it's easy, but actually that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right choice, so I want to explore both.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Alistair?
Hello. So for me, there's a couple of points which are intriguing. Coming out of the MO training, it was fantastic, loved it, just brilliant. A problem I come across though is I am not qualified enough to work for any platform. So I want to carry on my coaching practice, and if I'm not regularly practicing, I'm losing the skill set. And I've noticed a pattern or a gap in the market, let's say, that you finish your MO, but then you're not allowed on places like More Happy or Wabia or Spinach, these platforms. So it's trying to figure out how I can address this problem, whether it is a coaching industry issue, that there might be some bridging that we can do to help people here. Because I think that a lot of coaches are in the same boat. You don't know where to go or how to keep your skill set going to develop your skills and to help people. So I want to understand more about the accreditation process, pricing behind it, because I've noticed that if you want to coach for More Happy, you have to spend in the region of £5,000 then to earn £50 an hour. And I think that's a reasonably broken model, in my opinion. So I'm trying to navigate this issue, and I'm potentially looking at startups to maybe bridge this gap in a sense. So just here to learn.
So something in what you said around the industry asking it of you versus your own, like, how does this support me in my own growth? Yeah,
a bit of both. I'm still trying to explore it, but I've got a gut feeling that there can be something created to help bridge all of these brilliant, passionate people coming out of Mo. So, like, there's got to be some support there, I think. Maybe a platform which allows people to get their practice in, get their hours in to accrue more experience, but being able to be paid for it in a certain way, or has to be a benefit on both sides, let's say.
Okay, great. And Monique, your hand went up earlier and it's gone down. Did you want to share? Have you got shy?
No. I'll share. So basically, I'm a learning lead within a drug and alcohol mental health charity. So I'm training staff. And when I was applying for this role and looking at other roles, a lot of them were saying that they would like people to have a CIPD learning and development qualification or a coaching qualification. I have neither, and I got the job, but then I'm just thinking of next steps. If I wanted to move on to another role or a higher role, I'm exploring my options basically. However, as everyone's been speaking, I'm realizing that the MO training is separate from accreditation now.
Yeah, thank you for naming that. Really, really good point, because what you do have is a coaching qualification that of a course that has been validated through the Association for Coaching. So you've got a level of competence in coaching that's been recognized by the Association for Coaching as this course meets a standard. Accreditation is separate to training. So accreditation is almost once you've achieved a level of training to prove that you've managed to put that into practice in an appropriate and ethical way, and having an external stamp of approval.
Okay.
That names
So,
that. So
but I guess, but from the sounds of what Alistair was saying and stuff, certain people would need you to have accreditation, but it's not necessary.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
there was a comment in the chat. I was just gonna being accredited helps with credibility, knowing that I remain focused on operating as an effective coach as part of the internal coaching faculty and support career development longer term as well. Yeah, great. So a real mix there of ideas and opinions of how accreditation might fit with you. And my own process was similar to a lot of what's been shared. Like, I was coaching for years without accreditation. No one asked me about accreditation. No one cared if I was accredited or not. They just cared if I was useful or helpful. They weren't interested in that. The tipping point for me in going through it was two things. One, a bit my ego wanted that external validation of someone else saying, yeah, you've got some competence at this. That was a driver for me. And similar to what Alistair was saying, there's a company I'm an associate for called Sanctus, who coach in the corporate space, generally around mental well-being, but they've moved. And if they were going to accept you as a coach, you had to have accreditation. They weren't willing to take coaches who didn't have accreditation. So that was the kick up the bum for me of like, I really want to work for you, so I'm gonna go through this process. We did a version of this call a few years ago, and at that point I was a lot more relaxed about accreditation than I am now. Then I was saying, figure out if it's right for you, if it matters, how much would it help you. It hadn't ever really hindered me very much. And this is my perception, this isn't truth. I think the industry's changed quite a bit in the past few years, where accreditation is becoming more important. Probably less so to private clients just coming and finding you and having a conversation, but not entirely. Like, people, I think people are getting a bit more savvy in discovery calls of questioning you and your experience and validation. And certainly within organizations, they're looking at it a bit more. So my own perspective has shifted a bit of take it or leave it. If it feels right for you, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. Where I suspect we're going to get more and more down the path, which is a good thing, that accreditation is going to be more a requirement for getting work. So I think it is going in that direction. Once you finish the MOE training, how would you go about getting accredited? Would you have to do another external course? Great question. We will come to that. So I'm just going to pop the slide back up again. Has that gone back to the beginning? It has, isn't it? So these are some of the absolute basics before you go to accreditation. One is you will need to be an AC member already if you're going to go down AC accreditation. And similarly with the others, you'd need to be a member of their body. With AC, you would need to choose whether you were going to go down. There's two different pathways. There's the life coach or the executive coach pathway. And my interpretation of that is executive coaching is where the coaching is existing within a work context, and life coaching is sort of everything else. And I specifically say within a work context, as opposed to that work has to inform the coaching. So you may work with someone in an organization and they come and they say, I'm struggling at work because my mom's really ill and my marriage is breaking down. And you have a conversation with them around how that's impacting them. So you're not talking about how do I get the promotion, how do I go and navigate my salary increase or whatever. It's quite personal stuff, but you're having it within the work context. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but it's certainly how I've viewed it. If I've gone into an organization to work with someone, we work on what we need to work on, and it might be personal stuff. So if anyone in AC ever watches this, maybe they'll tell me I'm wrong, but certainly that's how I've framed it. Life coaching tends to be everything outside of that. So you may also work with sole traders, freelancers who are coming to you privately and they're talking about struggling in their own practice. Again, that would be, in my world, executive coaching. And I chose to go down. I think some of the lines in my work have been slightly blurry around that, where that sits, but I've chosen to go down the executive coach stream because I felt that's been the most useful in terms of working with organizations, should they ask. And the other thing, there are different levels of accreditation you go through based on your experience and your training. So whatever, speaking to the person who posted in the chat. So at AC, there's foundation or foundation executive coach, there's coach, professional coach, master coach, and an executive version of all those. And the requirements to meet the standards for each of those are different depending on which one you want to go for. And you don't have to work through them all. My first accreditation, I didn't do foundation coach. I went straight to coach. My second time, I've done professional. Next time, I'll go for master. And the other thing to say is it's a fair bit of work. It's not something you can do quickly. So after this, have a look on what the requirements are, but it's probably take you a few months to collate everything and do it, and we'll have a quick look at the requirements in a moment. Once you've submitted it, takes about 3 months to get it back. So even when you've submitted, you've got to wait before you get that. And if you are thinking about it, two things that are great to do anyway in your coaching practice, but absolutely start doing now if you're considering this. One is log your hours. Log your hours so you know what work you've done, and log them in a way that the accreditation team are going to want to see it. I made that mistake. I had a lovely spreadsheet that logged all my hours, and then when I came to accreditation, that needed formatting in a completely different way, which meant I just had to translate all the days. So if you can get that set up off the bat, that's helpful. And two, get into supervision, because you need to be having supervision to get your accreditation. And on the MOE course, we have supervision in terms of you can go and speak to someone who's done the MOE course, and you have that check-in as part of the requirements of the course. Supervision in the accreditation world needs to be with an accredited supervisor. It can't just be a peer-to-peer situation. It needs to be actual with a qualified supervisor. And there are a lot of different parts of the application that you need to complete. And I just had a look at mine before this call. So including transcript of my recorded call and all the other stuff, my last application with all the questions and everything was 73 pages and 18,500 words long. So do it over time. Don't sit down one weekend and think, right, I'm going to do my application today. It's an iterative thing. Last couple of things before, I'm just going to skip this. So this, you can just go and download this from AC website. So I don't want to go like into the minutiae of this. Can people see that? Is the text big enough for people to actually be able to read on the slide? Yeah. So at the top, you can see here, foundation coach or foundation executive coach. You would need 35 hours of coach specific training for coach, you would need 40+ hours of coach. So having completed the MOE course, you were already there. You could do foundation coach or coach, because the MOE course is classed as 50 hours. So in terms of going straight in, you've done the level of training you already need. Next, you need coaching experience, so 50 hours or 100 hours, and then it goes up from there. You need to write a personal coaching approach. How does your coaching, how do you do your coaching? What's it like being coached by you? And there's prompts and support. And again, the depth and detail of that increases as you get higher up the accreditation levels. A coaching case study, so that's very similar to what you did for. I'm making the assumption that everyone here has done the MOE course. You may not have done, but on the MOE course, you would have written a case history at the end that kind of talks through the work you did with someone. So you do a version of that. There's a standards and ethics bit. So if you do foundation, you don't need to submit anything. You just need to agree that you're going to act ethically in accordance with the ethics. For the others, you need to ask them to send you some ethical dilemma questions, and they say, this is the situation, how would you respond to it? What would you be doing? For master coach, you have to bring one of your own ethical dilemmas that you've experienced. Coach fitness to practice. This is the big one. So you have to record a coaching session that you do. You have to transcribe it, or you can pay someone else to transcribe it if you want. I found it helpful to really get into the session. You have to write every word, every every R that you said, every word that they said. Write that out for, I think it's a 40-minute session they ask for. And then you have to critique it. And again, you don't have to say you're brilliant. You have to say, oh, I think this question was helpful because it opened up some insights, and here I stacked my questions and I wasn't very clear, and I'll stay aware to that going forward. You have to have some client references. Supervision. So this is you have to be in supervision. So for the first two, for every 15 hours coaching you have, you should be having 1 hour of supervision. And the more experienced you get, the lower that ratio needs to be. And one of the reasons why I say, if you're thinking about this, get into supervision early, is because you can't say, oh, I've got 90 hours of coaching now, I'm going to go for coach. So I'll have a supervision session every week for the next 3 weeks while I get my next 10 hours. The supervision sessions need to be across your experience. You can't bunch them all up to squash them in to meet the criteria. And then again, following on from the question in the chat, there is CPD that's required. So after your training, you're expected to go and do more learning, more CPD on different courses. Association for Coaching is really quite flexible on this. Some of the other bodies are quite strict about what that CPD has to be. Association for Coaching is open to like books you've read, webinars you've attended. Like it's quite flexible in what they'll accept as CPD. So it's not as arduous or as expensive as it can be for some of the other bodies who expect very specific things. And then the last one is a coach self-assessment, which is the bit I hated. And they have these like 12, I think it's 12, maybe, yeah, I think it's 12 criteria you have to meet, and you have to score yourself how you're doing on each of them. If you're not scoring that highly, what you're planning to do in the future to get it better. And I don't know why my own resistance to that was such. So that is an overview of what you have to, the hoops you have to jump through with AC. That was my final slide. I'm going to be quiet and see how confused people are or how clear they are. I spoke quite quickly whizzing through that. So what do people want to ask me or other people? Or, oh, there's 15 questions in the chat. Right, okay. Let me see.
Mark, I think some of those are my comments as well.
Great.
About links to AC coaching accreditation and that. But there is some questions here about how long is accreditation valid? How is it sustained?
Right. So it is valid for 3 years. So you have to renew it every 3 years. When I say renew it, you do not have to do that whole thing again. Once you've got unless you're going up to the next level, once you've got your level of accreditation, it's it got simplified. I think one of the things Darren Robson worked on was simplifying the reaccreditation process because it had become a bit arduous. If I remember rightly, I think it's quite trust-based now. You have to be able to go on and say, yes, I've done my CPD. Yes, I've remained in supervision. Yes, I've done. It's quite tick boxy, and then you say, yeah, I've continued my development over the past 3 years, but you don't have to resubmit all the stuff. You just have to confirm that you've maintained your growth and development, essentially. Is there anything else, Jane, I missed in the questions in the chat?
Yeah, there's another one about do you know of a platform for logging hours? And I put in the chat the CPD hours template from the AC website. So that's quite a good template that you can use. And does Mo help get the hours of coaching experience? So I did say that people could maybe put out on the community app if anyone's looking to be coached or pro bono coaching or anything like that.
Yeah, so there's opportunities get put out when Mo hears about them, and there is the opportunity to sort of co-coach in that sense. But in terms of kind of a structured support, there's not really there's not really a thing in place. And just on that, I can't remember the percentage, but the majority of your hours need to be paid for accreditation. You can't do you can, there's a proportion of pro bono, I can't remember it. It might be 20%, something like that, 25% can be pro bono and the rest have to be paid. There's no benchmark of how much you're paid. So you could be paid £10 for a session, and that would still count. And they also accept, I think I'm remembering this right, skills sharing. So if you said, I'm going to give 6 sessions to a website builder and they're going to build me a coaching website, that they will class that as payment because you're receiving something in return for the coaching. So that's something to keep aware of.
There's another one about supervision groups or communities. Are these counted in the same way as one-to-one supervision or different?
Yeah, you can have group supervision or one-to-one. Individual supervision, they're both valid. They do, is just the caveat that it does need to be with an accredited supervisor. It can't be with just peer-to-peer supervision with a colleague. It needs to be formal supervision, but it can be group, which is a much more affordable way of doing it.
And Rachel, Ruth asked about the costs, and I've just put in the link to the cost summary on the AC web. That's for the AC.
Yeah.
You need to look up the other ones for the costs, but the AC costs are there. Because Mo is an accredited course, you get it slightly cheaper.
I might be completely wrong, but I think it's something like foundation courses around 200 and master goes up to about 450, 500, something like that to apply for the accreditation.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that's a rough ballpark, I would say.
I think I've captured all those in the chat, but if anybody else has got any questions, please feel free to unmute.
Yeah, what are other questions people are having? Simon.
Yeah, hi. Excuse me. Hello, Mark. Could you go into more detail on the one-to-one supervision and how that process actually works? How we find someone to come in and help with that?
So,
please.
Yeah, there are there are, if you go onto the AC website, you can search for supervisors who are qualified, and just like finding a coach, you can have a chemistry call with them. You can check in with them and see who feels like a good fit for you.
Right. And they come into one of your sessions and
No,
observe?
sorry. So they are not. You could take a recording of your session, like you might submit to them and sit together and say, oh, what could I have done differently here? But generally, you're taking your experience of coaching to the supervisor to unpick it with them. So
I see. Thank you.
so, you know, someone came in and you felt very stuck. You got tangled up in the weeds of the session and you couldn't find your way out of it, or someone came and they were suffering some trauma and it was a lot for you to take on board, and how might you manage that, and what might you do going forward? All those kind of things that support you to develop in your practice.
I see. That's great. Very helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Alistair.
Hello. I mean, quite intrigued about sort of return on investment, let's say. So if you go through your accreditation process, is there an increase of like in what you can charge per session? I'm trying to understand that kind of realm. Like, is it worth me going to spend X amount of money? Do I get that back? How does that relationship work?
I think the honest answer is not necessarily. I mean, you could have no accreditation at all and go out there and charge £500 an hour if you could find the people willing to pay for it. Like, it's I don't think there's a direct correlation between accreditation and now I'm able to charge X amount. Within going into businesses and corporate spaces a bit more, they may say, well, we're not going to, if you haven't got a certain level of accreditation, we're not going to work with coaches who haven't done that. So they wouldn't pay you for it. But there's still, even though I think it's changing, there's still a lot of grey area around. Some organizations will be really clued up on coaching and who they're looking for and what they're looking for. Some won't even know accreditation's a thing. They might have just like, oh yeah, I heard coaching might be helpful for one of our clients. We're going to get a coach in, and they won't ask the questions. But it's changing.
I noticed a little bit of a pattern in the sense of me individually. If I have to fund everything to then not necessarily get a return on it, it makes me want to just go out into the world as an unaccredited coach, which could lead to it impacting negatively on the coaching world, if that makes sense. You're representing the coaching world not in the best light if you've not been trained well, but then there isn't an incentive for you to train more. That's what I'm trying to deal with, if that makes sense, trying to understand it more. Yeah.
And it's a good question. I don't know if I've got an answer, or anyone else has got thoughts on that. All I would say is my sense is that it's changing, and more people are asking for accreditation, and it may be harder and harder to find the work without that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lindsay.
Hi, morning, Mark. You said that the majority of the work needs to be paid. 20% can be unpaid, the hours. The 20% of unpaid hours, can we use the MOE hours for that?
No, they can't be in training.
Right.
It's got to be separate to training. And hold my 20% lightly. I think it's around 20-25% that can be pro bono. Ruth.
Hello, thanks for answering all the questions and giving me more insight on the accreditation. I guess one consideration or one outtake from me is that there's impetus to do accreditation if you want to work in a more professional corporate environment, because it's, there's growing awareness. I wonder, I don't know, and maybe I just have to do the research, but there is any sense, I presume that the distinction between the Association of Coaching, UCA, EMCC and ISCF is region and global, you know, like global. Like is there a sense of kind of what accreditation is most recognised by organisations globally, or would sort of, it doesn't really matter what accreditation, or does it just fall out by organisation?
Yeah, I think the biggest by membership, they're all global. So I think I don't know, but EMCC stands for European Mentoring and Coaching Council. But I think they've rebranded themselves now and called themselves EMCC Global, which is a bit of a tangent. ICF is the biggest by membership and the oldest one. It's the longest standing one, and probably the most famous, if like the most well known, maybe is a better phrase. But in terms of when you niche down, there are some very specific work that will say we will only work with accredited coaches and we will only work with ICF accredited coaches. Like, there are some organizations that are that granular about it, but very, very few and far between. Generally, an accreditation within an accepted body is good enough for 90% of work. There's a few like that I've come across that are very, very specific, but yeah.
That's really helpful, thank you.
Lindsay, is that the same hand as before? Or is there another?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I'll remove it now.
That's all right. No, it's nice to see it waving at me, but I just wanted to check. Jane, is the stuff come up in the chat?
Nicholas asked, if you offer a combination of coaching and mentoring which is tailored to the needs of each client and conversation, would these hours count towards the required accreditation hours?
So with the AC, if you go and like investigate this a bit more after this call, if you download their what's the word for them?
The applicant guide. Yep.
Yeah, there's 12 competencies, and across your application you have to make sure you've evidenced that you've met all those competencies. So I think I'm right, but I can't promise I'm right, that if there was a gray area between coaching and mentoring going on, and yet it stayed within the code of ethics and the 12 competencies, it would be acceptable, because you were meeting the competencies that they were requiring, even if there was a bit of mentoring in there. I think I'm right in saying that, but if you jump through all these hoops and they come back and say no, you were doing too much mentoring in that session, we're not passing you, then I'm just resolving myself of responsibility for that in the answer I've just given. But I think in terms of, as long as you're meeting the competency levels, that would be okay.
And Mark, I'm not sure whether we've answered this, but what level the MO training corresponds to? So
yeah, so MO training is classed as 50 hours. So that would, assuming you met all the other criteria on the coach training requirement, you could go for foundation coach or coach. I think you would need some further training at professional coach, certainly for master coach.
And just to confirm that membership is separate to accreditation. So yes, you would need to have your membership and then pay for accreditation separate. membership, definitely for the AC, is yearly, and then accreditation lasts for 3 years. But you'd have to explore the other bodies because I don't know about.
And interesting, when I looked at this document the other day for this call, at the top it says AC. It now says, which I don't think it used to, AC member or a member of another body,
Yeah, that's right. You can be a non-member of the AC now
and
and
still
apply
get
for
accreditation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could be a member of the ICF and not join as a member of the AC, but still get AC
Yeah.
accreditation. They may
Yeah.
charge you a bit more for that, but yeah.
I think again that's a chat covered. So if anybody's got anything else, feel free.
What other questions are coming up for people? Someone's sat there confused right now. I know it, and they're not saying it out loud because there's a concern. So if you're feeling confused, please voice it, because other people will be confused too. And I don't know what I've not said. Maybe I'm wrong. Alistair, go for it.
In regard to pay, so a pattern I've recognized is it's quite challenging actually selling coaching to people and getting people to pay. Is part of accreditation that you have to get people to pay, and you said there's no financial limit. So like, could be people paying you £1. Is that possible?
Probably, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I'd probably be encouraging people to invest slightly more in themselves. Like outside of the accreditation, like I think there is something in buying into the process that where people get, and you know, £1 if you're doing 6 sessions with someone, £6 is like 1.5 cups of coffee or something. Now that there's probably undermining your own skill and value a little bit if you're going at that rate. But I get, I take your point on principle.
Yeah, I've just found I've been trying to coach as much as humanly possible, and I have so many people not turn up to free coaching. It's very frustrating, but then it's the balance between trying to sell a piece of coaching and then trying to give it free because I just want to get the hours. That's it really.
And there may be something in the community that, in terms of some co-coaching with people, where you can get the practice in and get the feedback, that might be helpful in that sense.
So say if I can sell one coaching session for £1, that's mostly sort of creating your agreement and then exploring, let's say, the helicopter model or something like that. You're not getting nitty gritty, really trying to work on niche problems. Is just doing, let's say, 50 hours of an intro session, working each other out and working through. Is that enough for the AC, or do you have to show once you're 3 sessions in and in depth trying to work at detail or something? Because they're 2 very different coaching sessions, but to get to a 3rd session is far harder with getting somebody to pay and getting them to turn up than just doing an intro session with someone.
I think if you'd done 50 intro sessions, you'd struggle to complete the accreditation application and evidence that you'd met all the competencies in the way that they would expect through that, particularly on the not the fitness to practice, the I can't remember what it's called, the other one. We have to kind of describe your case history. You know, if you were just speaking about a first session, it would be difficult to kind of articulate how you had coached someone through a process. And
do you know of any platforms that are available to assist new coaches accrue hours?
There's Coach Me Free, which is a coaching platform where people can go, and there's kind of two bits to it where people can, sometimes coaches in training go on there to get some free hours, so people will go, and then you have people who are qualified and will maybe give 2 sessions free, and then 2 will be paid for or something like that. I can't quite remember the detail, but coaching free could be a good help with that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Other questions?
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Just something that occurred to me, and it's not quite accreditation, but I was told recently by somebody who's a career coach that once you've done a coaching qualification like MOE, no, you can't become a career coach. You have to be professionally accredited or a member of a licensed body or something. Is that correct? To the best of your knowledge?
Not something that I've
come across before.
Yeah, I mean, there are for me, coaching is coaching, right? And you've got some coaching skills, and you can apply that to a career, you can apply that to leadership, you can apply that to mental well-being, you can apply that to it really isn't. You may get a label and you may choose to work in a certain way, but the skills are the skills. As people kind of specialize and go down specific areas, they may do more specific training in coaching people with a neurodiversity, for instance, and they may get a specific certification in a mode of working that works with neurodivergence, but that wouldn't necessarily exclude you. And similarly with career coaching, Firework, I think, is the organization that's the kind of career coach. You can get a certification in the Firework model of career coaching, and you couldn't say I'm a Firework coach without I'm a Firework career coach without going through that. But there's nothing to say you couldn't be a career coach.
Okay, that's good, because there's also obviously the career equation framework and qualification as well. But it was she was like, oh, you can't do this. You need to be like part of a licensed register or something. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of that before, but that's obviously good to know. That's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, and that's Erica Sosner's company, right? Career Equation.
Oh yeah, she didn't say it. Sorry, it was somebody else who's a qualified, or told me she was a qualified career coach, and explained that you need a professional qualification or license to do it. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think I was being out to say I don't believe that to be the case, unless specifically you're saying I'm going to be a career equation
yes,
working in this with this certification, and you couldn't do that. But yeah, to say, I mean, anyone could just decide they were a coach today.
Yeah, because it's unregulated, isn't it?
Yeah. So to then say, oh, it's fine to say anyone can be a coach, but no one can be a career coach, it doesn't quite compute to me, unless I'm missing something, and I'll hold my hands up to that. But and I suppose coming back to the principles of why accreditation exists, it's for that very reason. Like, there are lots of, anyone on the street could just say, right, today I'm going to be a coach, and set themselves up, build themselves a website and say I'm a coach, and they've never done a day's coach training in their lives, and no one can stop them. Similar to a counselor and a therapist, like no one can actually stop you doing those things.
Yeah.
The reason these bodies exist is to try and create credibility and ethics and accountability in a system that is unregulated. And I think that's where the value is, and the more it evolves as an industry, the more important that's becoming.
Thank you. It's really helpful.
So 12:56. Any final questions that people? Yeah, Ruth.
All right, I'm conscious I've asked a few, but I guess overall, I'm just curious to what difference has accreditation made to you and your coaching?
Great question. It meant I could do the work that I wanted to do. for a start. Like that was kind of the push for me. It really, whilst I can't pretend I enjoyed going through the accreditation progress, it really forced me to reflect in a way that I would never have made the space to do on what I do and how I do it, and what some of the principles are and what other beliefs. So it's kind of crystallized for me the way I work and the bits that the bits that were my strengths and the bits where I had areas of development. It kind of highlighted those. It was helpful as a learning and development process in and of itself. So you know, I guess an example for that of me, we often talk about coaching as like, if there's a continuum of support and challenge, like coaching offers both those things. That my natural sense is more towards the support, so I need to stay alert to where I need to bring in a bit more challenge or dial that up a bit more, or have a bit more. So it's been very helpful for me in reflecting on that. Apart from Sanctus, I don't think it's helped me get any other work. So, you know, there's a few. I work for Young Women's Trust, which is a feminist charity. They observe you doing some coaching, and that's their metric for are you any good, not have you got the accreditation. Do some work with Frontline, which is a social work charity working with social workers, and again, there wasn't a requirement for accreditation there. It was an application and assessment process. So it's still a grey area in how much it holds you back, and I think that's where it become a personal choice in a way. And there may come a point where you bump up against some obstacles because you haven't got it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm probably waffling a bit now. But...
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's really helpful.
How long is
About
MOE? I don't seem to be able to find out. What's MOE training? MO training? Is this a non, someone who hasn't completed the MO course? The MO course is it 6 sessions or 8 sessions now, Jane? Or can it be both?
Can it be both? It can be both.
Okay. So yeah, it happens over a number of sessions, normally weekly, of sort of 3.5-hour sessions. So you would tend to be looking at 6 to 8 weeks to complete it, depending on the shape of the course.
Sandra, I've just put my email in the chat to you. If you email me directly, we can talk about it further. And also, we're working on dates for the new year, so just bear with us at the moment.
Alistair.
Slightly off topic, but I'd be really interested to explore more options with the trainer's training pathway and that kind of stuff. I know it's not necessarily for here, but I'd be really interested. So if you could point me in the right direction, I'd love to chat to someone. Yeah,
email Jane, and Jane will put you in touch with Debs, Chris, Simon, who kind of manage that process, and that's great to know, because it's the training pathway is, I think, some of the, and I actually use when I deliver on the training courses, that forms part of my CPD and my accreditation, because I don't think I learn more from coaching than facilitating the course. Like it just you just learn so much from doing that. Yeah,
fantastic, super excited, thank you.
So lots of people thanking and disappearing. Any more questions anyone has? Well, thank you, everyone. If that annoying thing happens that an hour after this call, all the questions come flooding to your mind, feel free, you can email any questions you have to me at Mark@MO Foundation, and I will come back to you as soon as I can. Again, with the caveat that it's my bias, it's my opinions. What I'm saying here is just my perspective. It's not the truth. And Jason, did you have a question? No, it was a
Oh, no,
wave.
sorry, Mark. I was just saying thank you very much.
Okay, it was a wave. I wasn't sure if it was a question or. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the wave. Yeah, but thank you all for being here, and a pleasure to have this conversation, and lovely to meet you all.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, any questions? Feel free to ask going forwards.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate everything. See you guys later. Have a good day.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank
Thanks, Jane. Thank you
you.
very